special treat for you today. Life hacks presented by Captain Obvious. Yay! All right. So it should be fun. Let's put one up on the screen. For those of you guys who are listening via podcast, I'll read it to you. Number one, when life shuts a door, open it again. That's how doors work. See? You always thought you had to climb through a window. Duh. All right, let's do another one. Quitting after your first win is a great way to stay undefeated. All right? Softball team. Hey, we're 1-0. We get just perfect record. Nice. Maybe. Okay, and then one more here. If your eyes are bigger than your stomach, you have severe physical deformities. Right? You should probably go get that checked out if you said that, right? Idioms are fun. Hey, we're looking at life hacks through this whole series, and we've been looking not just at Captain Obvious life hacks, but life hacks from the designer of life. God created your body, your mind. God understands human society better than any of us. And he gave us a whole compendium of best practices. We call it the Bible. And when we look at these things, we see a lot of rules and guidelines and commands, but they're given not to make life harder, but to make life happier and healthier. Jesus talked about the commands this way in John 15:11. He said, I've told you these things so that you will be filled with my joy. And God has a command for us today that we're going to look at that will bring happiness and joy, and it's kind of counterintuitive. And we're going to get to that happiness hack in a minute. But first, I want to start with a happiness observation from the designer of life, and it's going to sound like it also is presented by Captain Obvious. Let's put it up on the screens. Genesis 2:18. It is not good for the man to be alone. It's not good for the man to be alone. Now, some of you guys are thinking, did I really need to come to church or read the Bible to know that? Anybody who's lived through COVID-19 knows it's not good to be alone. Right? We were all sort of isolated from people, and depending on whether you were an introvert or an extrovert, that was either an awesome vacation from having to people or like a bizarre form of torture imposed on you with all of the restrictions. Okay? We know that being lonely stinks. Nobody enjoys it. Why do we need to hear God say it's bad? Because he's the one who designed life. And if the designer says there's something wrong with this, then we need to look at loneliness and isolation differently. It's not just something that's unpleasant. Being isolated is dysfunctional. It's not the way we were designed. And if we're isolated from others, if we're cut off from intimacy in life, it creates all kinds of problems. See, write this down in your notes if you got fill in the blanks. You were designed with a need for intimacy. It's part of the way that you were built. It's part of that original God-orchestrated design, the good part of your human nature. You were designed with a need for intimacy. Now, when God wrote those words, when he spoke those words, it's not good for man to be alone. Okay, you may not realize this. He said that in the very beginning when he had created humankind. He created this Garden of Eden. He put Adam in it. This is before sin entered the world. This is before the Green Bay Packers were founded. This is when life was as good as it could be, right? You know what I'm talking about. And in the moment where everything else was perfect, God said, there's something not good here. This man is lonely, and he shouldn't be lonely. That's not what I intended. And think about this, okay? He had, because there was no sin, Adam had perfect communion with God. He's the only human other than Jesus to ever experience 100% perfect communion between him and God. And still God said it's not good for him to be alone. And so he says the second half of this verse, Genesis 2:18, he said, so I will make a helper who is just right for him. And we get Eve. Now, before we continue, I need you guys to understand something. This is not a marriage talk. This is not a romance talk. This is not a sex talk. Intimacy is something that our culture has so intermingled with sex and romance that just saying intimate brings up all of the wrong kinds of connotations. Intimacy is not just about physical intimacy, it's about being emotionally intimate with another human being, someone who knows you, someone who knows the real you, and someone who still wants to be around you. Intimacy. And we're going to talk about why you need it, but God looked at humanity and he said, it's not good for humans to be alone. It hurts you. And it's not, if you feel lonely today, if you feel cut off, if you feel isolated, this is not it's okay. No, it's not okay. You're not okay. If you're cut off, you feel it. Write this down in your notes. Isolation is bad for you. It hurts you. It damages a lot of the vital systems in your body. Okay, there's been a lot of research into feelings of loneliness and isolation long before COVID-19, but especially since then. A lot of different studies. Let me give you a brief summary. Being isolated negatively affects your sleep. It hurts your immune system. It causes extra stress. It causes depression. It causes a drop in self-esteem. There are all of these emotional things that happen to you. But it's more than just an emotional problem, okay? Hands raised. How many realize smoking cigarettes is bad for your health? Okay? I know some of you are like, yeah, that's why I'm trying to quit. Okay? You should. Okay? It's bad for you. How many realize that obesity is bad for your health? Anybody heard that before? Right. We all know that. Okay? Let me read a quote from a summary of a lot of research done in the United States about being cut off. Okay? Quote, all told, loneliness is as important a risk factor for early death as obesity and smoking. Let that sink in for a minute. You remember in COVID-19, the people who were more likely to die were the ones who had comorbidities. You remember that fun term, right? Smoking and obesity were certainly some of those. Feeling isolated and cut off and alone doesn't just affect your emotional health, it affects your physical health. The designer of life said it's not good. It's not good to linger that way. It's not good to stay that way. It's not how I intended people to be. And statistically, we know this. It's a problem in the United States. Or 4 years after shelter in place, it's actually worse now than it was before COVID. 4 years later, it still hasn't improved. It's not really about COVID-19. It's about a growing trend in our society of people escaping into themselves and not reaching out with others. A lot of Americans feel lonely. It's more pronounced in men than in women, and it's much more pronounced in young people. Okay? Those who have children who are teenagers or young adults, those who have grandchildren that are teenagers and young adults, let me give you a statistic that should disturb you. 73% of Generation Z, okay, so we're talking about college students and young adults down to like middle schooler, okay? 73% say they feel lonely either some of the time or all of the time. It's a problem. And so we have all of these things that we know we want to be connected, we're not connected, and we end up doing things to try to help. Okay? We try to put Band-Aids on this thing just to stop the bleeding because it feels very uncomfortable. No one needs the Bible to tell them that loneliness feels bad. We all know that. Nobody enjoys that sensation. And so there are different things we try to plug in. One of those, the obvious one, is social media. Now, hear the guy on the stage. I'm not against social media at all. Social media can be a great tool to fuel a heightened sense of intimacy with someone. But it can also be a replacement for intimacy. And it can also be used in the place of something else that you really need. 91% of Americans are engaged in social media at some level. Do you realize that? 91%? Like grandma's on Facebook? Yes, she is. Okay? You didn't even know. You probably better check and see what you're posting. She's watching. Okay? 91% of people are on social media. And yet the problem still persists. No matter how many posts you have, right? Feeling sad today, life is just hard, okay? And you get a lot hug emoji, praying for you, friend, sending good vibes your way. Like, what does that even mean? I'm sending good vibes? Like, it's especially when Christians put that. I understand praying for you, man, but like sending good vibes, okay? It doesn't fix it. Posts don't fix it. Another major thing that our society goes to when we don't have intimacy is porn. Pornography is a huge industry in the United States. It's one of the most profitable industries in the United States. And it's very widespread. Recent studies, it depends on which one you look at. Recent studies would say that between 50 and 70% of American men have viewed pornography in the last month. It's a lot. And you say, well, I can't have emotional intimacy with someone, and I can't maybe right now have physical intimacy, but I can sort of trick myself into thinking and feeling like I'm having physical intimacy with someone, and it makes me feel a little bit less bad. And before you say, well, that's just a man problem, yeah, not anymore. Recent studies show that between 35 and 40% of American women have viewed pornography in the last month. And if you expand viewing pornography to reading sexually explicit stories, it's about the same percentage. It's around 70% for women as it is for men. And it keeps happening and it keeps growing, and yet social media is a booming industry, it's growing. Pornography is a booming industry, it is growing. It's Band-Aids, but they're Band-Aids on a bullet wound. And it's not making anything better. Society is still desperately lonely and isolated. And I think about that and I think, all right, there are some people I would exclude from this statement, okay? You all know them. Some of them are on social media. But generally, we're smart people in America, right? We should be able to figure out if I keep trying this and it's not making it better, I should try something else. Why do we keep investing time into solutions that don't solve the problem? Because the solution to the problem of intimacy is one that you probably know, but you just don't want to do it because it's risky, because it's hard. Write this down in your notes. Intimacy isn't about quantity, it's about depth. And all of the posts and all of the porn videos, they don't fix the root problem. It's a momentary reprieve, but it doesn't actually make anything better. No matter how many likes you get on that post, you can still feel desperately alone. It's not about quantity, it's about depth. Now, I asked Ron to help me with a certain illustration, and so I think Ron and Dirk were working on that. If you guys can get that ready and bring that up to the stage, now is that time. But here's what the problem is, okay? If you're really cut off and isolated, you know this. Okay? You can be in a room full of people, right up here, right up there. You can be in a room full of people and still feel alone. Okay? It's about quality. It's about depth. It's not about quantity. Parents in the room or grandparents who take care of little ones. Have you ever had to explain to your child or your grandchild what types of snacks help with hunger and what type of snacks do not? Anybody ever, right? I'm hungry. Okay, have a bowl of oatmeal. No, can I have fruit snacks? Fruit snacks taste good, okay? Fruit snacks do not make you less hungry, Ryan. It doesn't work. I could crush a whole box of fruit snacks. I'm still hungry, and now my stomach feels weird, okay? It's like Skittles. Any Skittles fans? Anybody? Okay, they brought the old green back. Was that a good idea or a bad idea? See, I like the replacement green. Okay, it's like Skittles. I like Skittles. They taste good. But if I'm starving, no amount of Skittles. See, I'm going to have this chewing sound for like the next 5 minutes. Okay? No amount of chewing is going to make stuff better. Because what I really need, let me unzip this. Ooh, see, this is still warm. What I really need Steak. Look at that. Those of you guys on the front row, you can probably smell this. This smells amazing. Okay, so as we close, just kidding. Just kidding. Okay. If I'm starving, I don't want Skittles. I need steak. I'll do that so you can see it, right? I need this. This is what makes me feel less hungry. This is what fills me to the depths. I don't need Skittles. I need steak. Okay? Here's the problem with social media. Here's why it can be a problem for intimacy. Because social media usage is highly correlated with loneliness. Highly. Now, if it's been a while since high school science class, correlation does not mean causation, right? It doesn't mean that using social media makes you lonely. Here's what it does mean. The lonelier you are, the more likely you are to use it. The more you use it, the more likely you are to be lonely. People who are heavy social media users are the loneliest people in our society. Do you know what else is highly correlated with loneliness? Pornography usage. No matter how many times you're intimate with the screen, it doesn't fill you. It doesn't make you feel seen. It actually makes you feel more isolated. We keep doing it. It doesn't work because it's not fixing the root problem. The root problem is that, see, now I'm not going to be able to talk. Let me get some water. The root problem is that we need something deep. We need meaningful relationships. We can't just survive on surface level stuff. We need stuff that cuts to the core and sees us at our core. And we don't want to do that because intimacy is risky. It's easier to be isolated. Now, if you walked into this place and you feel lonely, if you feel isolated, if you know what it's like to be in a room full of people and feel like nobody cares or sees me, if you've ever thought, if I died tomorrow, nobody would even care that I'm gone, if you ever thought, no one actually cares what I have to say, so I'm going to keep what I have to say to myself, if that's you, I have something that I want to share with you, but before I say it, I want you to hear, I am saying this with as much grace as I can muster. I am saying it with as much compassion as a pastor as I can. I'm saying it with as much understanding as I can, but sometimes in order to get healthy, we need to be shocked a little bit. So what I'm going to say to you, if you feel isolated and lonely, is going to be shocking. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Stay with me and don't shut this off because you need this and follow through this to the end. But write this down. Isolation is a self-inflicted wound. You are not cut off because the government told you to stay home. You are not cut off because society is moving in a certain direction. You are not cut off from other people because your ex-wife left you. You're not cut off from people because mom and dad screwed you up when you were a kid. You are cut off from other people because you cut yourself off from other people. And it's understandable. And I don't blame you for it. And I think most of us have probably been in that season. But you need to understand how the problem came out to be so that you can fix the problem. Isolation is a response, not every time, but most of the time, it is a response to emotional pain. And when we've been wounded by letting someone close, we don't want to be wounded again. So you close yourself off. It's like if you've eaten at a restaurant and you got violently ill. Anybody ever do that? You eat at a restaurant, you're like, man, I was throwing up all night. Okay? And then your friend's like, hey, let's go back to Freddy's. You're like, never again. Never again. I'm never eating. Sorry, Freddy's is good. I had that one time. Got really sick after Freddy's. Okay? Never again. You're designed to protect yourself from being hurt the same way again. And what happens is when you extend yourself out, when you ask that cute girl out for a date and she says no, when you're dating that guy and he ends up cheating on you with your friend, when you think that, okay, I'm gonna try to join this club and they vote you out, when you want to hang out with your friends and you're the only one that they forgot to tell about the party, when you share about your hobbies and people make fun of you, when you talk about you're questioning your identity or your attraction status and people turn you away and start mocking you, all of those things hurt. And here's what we learned. Okay, science has told us this. Your mind, your brain processes emotional pain just as intensely as physical pain. But you remember it better. You remember it better. That one time when you were a kid and you were going down the hill on your bike too fast and your foot got caught in the chain and you biffed and you just skidded and you had like little pieces of gravel in your knee. That happened to me. Okay? And you had all of that. That hurt. And you might remember a moment like that. Anybody have a bike crash moment from when you were a kid? Okay? Yeah, right? You can remember that happened, but when you call that up to memory, you don't feel that pain in your leg anymore. But listen, when you had something to share with the class and you pronounced the word wrong, or you said the wrong answer, or you said the wrong thing and your friends made fun of you, oh, that kid's stupid. Have you seen their teeth are crooked? Their hair is bad. They're fat. They're ugly. That, if you bring that memory back, that still hurts. Just like the first time. Your brain remembers it really well. And so what happens is when you've been wounded, when you've been hurt by letting somebody close, your brain says, never again. I'll never let that happen to me again. And you create an emotional blister to protect you from pain. And what you need is closeness. What you need is somebody who's near you. But you say, I can't be near somebody again, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a little buffer zone between me and everybody else. So I can still be around people. I can still see them. I can still talk to them. But they can never touch me again. They can never get close enough to hurt me again. I'll still be part of society, but no one will ever get close enough to wound me like they did again, and I will just stay here and I will eat my Skittles. But Skittles don't fix the problem. Skittles don't fill you. The thing that you need is out here, and you can't have that thing that you need when you're back behind this wall. And some of you know this wall all too well. You live behind it. Some of you are fully aware that this thing is here. And you're like, nope, not doing it. Not ever again. Not ever reaching out again. It's safe behind the wall, but you're starving behind the wall. And the thing that you need to realize about God is that just like God saw the loneliness in Adam and said, I'm going to do something, he sees the loneliness in you. And he's not satisfied to just leave you there. And that brings us to today's happiness hack, our life hack from the Maker. It is something that runs counterintuitive to everything that your defense system is telling you to do. But if you feel lonely and cut off from other people, you need to lean in and listen. Here's what God says to the church, 1 Peter 4:8. He says, above all, most importantly, before anything, at the top of your priority list, above all, love each other deeply. Love each other deeply. Now, you probably know this. The Bible was not originally written in English. This letter was written in Greek. The word that in English we get deeply is the Greek word ektenes. It would have been understood in this word picture from the people who originally heard this statement. It means intensely. It means earnestly. But the word picture, if you were a Greek speaker and someone said, love one another, ektenes, it means fully extended. It means reaching out to the maximum capacity to reach out. And here's the word picture that the designer of life is giving to the church, and it's given to you too. Above all, of most importance, if you want to be healthy, you have to love one another like this, not like this. You have to love reached out. And here's the problem with reaching out. You can't reach out when you're behind this. There's no room. You can wave, right? You can kind of fist bump, right? Right through there. You can design all this. Okay, you can't, this doesn't work. I can't hug somebody like this. I can't. I can't reach out. I can't respond. And if you know what it's like to be lonely, then you're thinking, okay, I hear what this guy is saying, but you're already shutting this down because you're like, I'm never coming out from behind this wall again. I'm never doing it again. Never again. I'm not going to get hurt like that again. You need to understand that isolation is a safe place, but it's a sad place. Because no matter how many Skittles, okay, you can hang out back here and say, I'm just going to eat these, I'm just going to post, feeling sad today, hug emoji, I'm just going to watch a couple of videos or download some, okay. No matter how much of that you do, it's never enough. And you say, well, I'll just throw some Skittles over to the other people behind their wall, and maybe we'll each have a few extra Skittles. Please don't mash those into the carpet. You're starving. You are starving behind the wall. Some of you know what that feels like. And you're at an impasse because you know you're starving and this is miserable, but at least this amount of pain you can manage. If I step out here and open myself up again, I may get hurt and I may never recover. It's hard. And the guy up on the stage saying you should do it it's rubber bullets bouncing off of a tank. You're like, ain't gonna happen, man. But the guy who designed your body and your mind has said, it's not good for you. It's hurting you. It's wounding you to stay behind here. I created you to have intimacy with somebody and not to be stuck behind this wall to protect yourself. And if you hear the wisdom from the master and you say, okay, I want to do that, but I don't know how. Let me give you 3 tips. Let me give you 3 things that you need to do if you're ready to escape. You want to write these down. First of all, you have to be assertive. You have to take initiative. If you're tired of living behind here and you say, I need steak, I'm starving. If you need that, you have to be assertive. You can't say, Lord, just bring me somebody to love me. Okay, just drop him in my lap. You did it for Adam. He went to sleep. He woke up. Here's Eve. Wouldn't that be weird? You're like, Lord, give me a wife. And then you just wake up, you're like, ow, my side hurts. Oh, hey, there she is. That'd be great. Doesn't work that way. Okay? You have to be assertive. Here's the thing. You need to understand, okay? Because some of you have probably been in this place. Some of you love the Lord and you are so hurt by loneliness and you've been praying, God, I need a friend. God, I need a spouse. God, I need somebody who cares. And here's what you need to understand. And this is tough love. I hope you hear this with grace, but you need to understand this. If God dropped them in your lap, you would still keep them on the other side of this wall until you're ready to bring that wall down. He's not going to remove this wall. Only you can. It takes initiative. He's not going to force them over here. You have to take initiative. You have to be assertive. Second, you have to be brave. Because doing this is going to expose you to the possibility of getting hurt again. There is no other way. Intimacy requires risk. There is no safe way to do it. It's, okay, sports fans, how many sports fans, if any, okay, you love your team? Some of you guys, you really love your team. Baseball, football, hockey, all right? I'm a Cowboys fan. I know this. Every year, I know they're probably going to disappoint me. But the only way to have fun when they win is to invest hope. And I know that when I invest hope, it's risky. It's like going to the casino and putting a bunch of money down on this one. It might work and I might feel good, or the Packers might knock us out again, John, every year. Why did they do that? Okay. But you have to be brave. If you don't want to live behind the wall, you have to be assertive. You also have to be brave, and you have to be willing to risk being hurt again in order to potentially gain being loved at a deep level and someone who gets past the surface level and who actually knows you, someone that you don't have to put on makeup when they come over to your house, someone that you don't have to pretend that you're driving the better car than you're driving, that you're making more money than you're making, somebody who knows you. And finally, write this down, you have to be patient. as Mark comes back up, you have to be patient because we're talking about depth. We're talking about someone who knows you deeply. You can't microwave that. Now, I asked Ron to grill a steak, and he expertly grilled this thing. It is, I'm telling you, it smells so good, okay? If this is what I want, you can microwave a steak, but if you do, you should probably have your carnivore card pulled, okay? You can't do that. You got to cook it right. It takes time to cut this thing up. It takes time to chew it. It takes time to digest it. It's good time, okay? If you are lacking intimacy, if you said, all right, I want to try this, you have to be patient. You have to understand, you may start dating that person and 3 months in realize, nope, this is not working, and that hurts. You may reach out to that friend. You may say, okay, I'm going to join this small group at church because they're all going to be my friends. And you may realize, you know what, I'm just not really connecting with these people. Not everybody wants to be that level of friend. And some of you, the pain is, I've tried reaching out. I've tried going to their house. I bought them a birthday present. They don't care about me. Okay, but somebody will. You got to be patient. You got to be willing to risk the pain in order to get something. Not just like, no, it's fine, I'm okay without it. You're not okay without it. He said so. It's not good for man to be alone. You need it. And I understand that there's pain involved. He understands that there's pain involved. Okay, let me read you the rest of this command. 1 Peter 4:8, I only gave you half earlier. The other half is very meaningful when it comes to emotional pain. The Bible says, above all, love each other deeply because love covers over a multitude of sins. Now, contextually, this is not talking about people sinning against God. It's not talking about people sinning against the government. This is talking about love deeply covers a multitude of people sinning against you. And there's something you need to understand about this command. God gave the command to love this way, fully extended, love each other deeply, love each other reached out. He said, love each other deeply because that covers a multitude of sins. The command is to love in the presence of hurt. To reach out again when you've been wronged. To extend in the presence of pain. He says, here's what you need to do. You've got to reach out again. I can't, Lord, I can't. It hurts too much. If we're being honest, some of you are watching, some of you are online watching, and you're saying, listen, Chris, I hear what you're saying. I can't. I cannot. I can't extend myself again. I've been hurt. I think the extender is broken. I can't. And here's the thing. Just you're probably right. But it's not just you. The commands that God gives us are not commands for us to toughen it up and figure it out. The commands He gives us, this thing that He wrote to the church, He wrote to people who have the Holy Spirit living inside of them, who had accepted God's lordship over their life, which means they also have God's help to do things that are not natural. And God is not saying, figure it out, be tougher. He's saying, let me help you. And one step at a time, walk through life with you. The imagery, the verbiage, when the Bible talks about the Holy Spirit coming into your life and helping you, the verbiage there is of one who walks along the journey side by side with you. You've got to take the steps, but there are times when you say, I can't take this next step. I can't come out from behind this wall. I need this to be safe, and I want so badly to come out of here, and I can't. I'm stuck. And God is saying, you're not stuck because I will help you. If you will take initiative, I will help you to do the difficult things to reach out again. And I understand this. I know this is a response to pain, and pain of rejection is perhaps the most, it's right up there with losing somebody that you love. I can't think of anything that cuts deeper. And you might be behind this wall because somebody rejected you. You might be behind this wall because somebody that you loved is with Jesus now. And you're alone. And it breaks your heart. You didn't want this. This was forced on you. But you're stuck and you're starving. And God, I believe this, God weeps for the pain that caused you to build this wall. But God weeps for the pain that this wall continues to cause you because you're stuck in it. And some of us who have been deeply hurt, we become experts at putting these things up, and we build fortresses. We build a castle, wall upon wall, tower upon tower, barrier after barrier after barrier. No one will ever get to me and hurt me again. I will never let myself be crushed like that again. But inside of this castle, you are starving. God said it's not okay. It's not, well, this is just my lot in life. It's not, well, my kids are grown and nobody. No. It's not okay. I need to reach out. Don't let your castle become a cage. Don't stay behind that wall. It takes bravery. It takes stepping out. It takes more than you can give. It takes God helping you. But I believe this with everything in me. If you will make the effort to step out and try again, I believe that He will meet you in the middle, and He will help you. And it may take time. It may not be the first person that you reach out to. It may not be the second or the third or the fourth. But I believe that if the God who designed your life looks down on your life and says it's not good for you to be alone, I believe that if you will reach out to somebody, He will pull the strings and bring intimacy and a meaningful relationship back into your life. It's not good. It's not good to be alone. Hey there, just wanted to take a minute to say thanks for watching. If a friend sent you this link, it's because they believe what we talked about today is going to make a positive impact in your life. And if it did, there's probably somebody that you care about who could benefit from it. So take a minute to share this video with somebody. Post it to your timeline or send them a direct link. And if you're able, take a minute to give using the link at the bottom of the description on this video. One last thing. Maybe you feel a tug at your soul and you're ready to take the next step in your spiritual life and form a relationship with God. We've got folks here who would love to talk with you about it. So just text prayer to the number on your screen and we'll follow up with you. It's also in the description on this video in case that helps. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.